John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown. An entertainer who played Pogo the Clown at children's parties, John Wayne Gacy was one of the most infamous serial killers in America. Over just 6 years, beginning in 1972, Gacy tortured, raped, and murdered 33 young men, most whom were just teenagers. Police investigating the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Biest in 1978 were led to Gacy through a series of events. What they discovered in the crawl space under his home was gruesome. 20 bodies of young men were found there, 1 was in the garage, and 4 more were found in the nearby Des Plaines River. Gacy was found guilty after an unsuccessful attempt at an insanity defense. He was executed by lethal injection in 1994. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is probably the most notorious serial killer of the 20th century. Though he admitted to killing 36 women, many people speculate that more fell victim to him over the years. Bundy graduated from the University of Washington in 1972. Many of his first victims from around this time were likely women who had disappeared in the Seattle and Oregon area. A number of them also seemed to resemble his college sweetheart. A psychology major, Bundy was said to be the ultimate manipulator. He lured women by faking injuries many times and escaped from custody on a few occasions. Bundy's crime spree spread across many states, and Florida is where it finally ended with a conviction in 1979. After numerous appeals, he was executed in the old Sparky electric chair in 1989 inches. The son of Sam. David Berkowitz was another infamous serial killer during the 1970s. He had 2 nicknames, the son of Sam and the .44 caliber killer. Berkowitz's case was strange because the murderer who would write confession letters to police and media. Reportedly, his rampage began on Christmas Eve in 1975 with the killing 2 women with a knife. More women and a few men were killed in New York City by Berkowitz before his arrest in 1977. In 1978, Berkowitz confessed to 6 murders and received a sentence of 25 to life for each. During his confession, he said that demons, particularly his neighbor named Sam Carr, had told him to kill. The Zodiac Killer. An unsolved and still open case, the Zodiac Killer haunted Northern California starting in 1968. The real terror did not come until August of 1969. This bizarre case involved a series of letters sent to 3 California newspapers. In many, an anonymous man confessed to murders. Even more chilling were his threats that if the letters were not published, he would go on a murderous rampage. The letters continued through 1974. Not all are believed to be the same man, and copycats were suspected of authoring a few. In total, the man who came to be known as the Zodiac Killer confessed to 37 murders. However, police can only verify 7 attacks, 5 of those resulting in death. The Manson Family. Charles Manson has been described as a psychopath, and the murder he was convicted of is among the most chilling. Due to the fame of the victims, this case became known as the Tate LaBianca murders. In the late 60s, Manson coerced a number of young women and men to join the family. Many were barely teenagers and caught up in the rebellious times. They were easily vulnerable to his influence. The infamous murder took place in August 1969 when Manson sent 4 of his family to a home north of Beverly Hills. There, they killed 5 people, including director Roman Polanski's pregnant wife, Sharon Tate. Manson was indicted and convicted along with those that carried out the murders. His control over the others led to his death sentence. However, he continues to live in prison and receives regular parole hearings, though none have been granted. The Plainfield Ghoul. Plainfield, Wisconsin was home to an unassuming farmer turned handyman named Ed Gain. His rural farmhouse turned out to be the scene of unthinkable crimes. After his parents' deaths in the 1940s, Gain isolated himself and became infatuated with death, dismemberment, sexual fantasies, and even cannibalism. He began with corpses from local cemeteries and escalated to killing older women by 1954. When investigators searched the farm, they found a literal house of horrors. Amidst the body parts, they were able to determine that 15 different women fell victim to the Plainfield Ghoul. He was admitted to a state hospital for life and died of cancer in 1984. The BTK Strangler. From 1974 through 1991, the Wichita, Kansas area was gripped with a string of murders attributed to someone known as the BTK Strangler. The acronym stands for blind, torture, kill, and the crimes went unsolved until 2005. After his arrest, Dennis Lynn Rader confessed to killing 10 people over the previous 30 years. He had notoriously toyed with authorities by leaving letters and sending packages to local news outlets. The last correspondence was in 2004 and led to his arrest. Even though he was not found out until 2005, his last murder occurred prior to 1994 when Kansas enacted the death penalty. Rader pleaded guilty to all 10 murders and was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences in prison. The Hillside Strangler. Also in the late 1970s, the West Coast was terrorized with not one, but 2 men known as the Hillside Strangler. Angelo Anthony Buono Jr. and his cousin Kenneth Bianchi were the men behind this gruesome moniker. In 1977, the 2 began their killing spree. They raped, tortured, and murdered a total of 10 girls and young women, starting in Washington state and extending to Los Angeles. Once arrested, Bianchi turned on Buono to avoid the death penalty and confessed the murders the pair had committed. After receiving a life sentence, Buono died in prison in 2002. The Black Dahlia Murder. Hollywood has been gripped by the Black Dahlia murder since 1947. It remains one of the best-known unsolved cases in California. The victim was dubbed the Black Dahlia by the media. She was, in fact, 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, a beautiful woman who was seemingly trying to find her way in life. Her story was sketchy and this led to an array of speculations as to who killed her. In all, almost 200 people were suspected in Short's murder. A number of men and women even confessed to leaving her body in the vacant lot where she was found. Investigators have never been able to pinpoint the killer, but the press certainly made the case a sensation. The dating game killer. Rodney Alcala received his nickname as the dating game killer because he had been a contestant on the popular TV show The Dating Game. His date from that appearance found him to be a little too creepy to actually go out with. Turns out that she had good intuition. Alcala's first known victim was an 8-year-old girl in 1968. Police found the raped and strangled girl holding onto life along with photos of other children. Alcala had already gone on the run, though he was later arrested and sentenced to prison. After being released from his first prison sentence, Alcala killed 4 more women, the youngest just 12 years old. He was later convicted of 1 murder and sentenced to death in California. However, given the number of photos recovered, it's believed that he was responsible for many more brutalities.